Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки.
I wish you health, fellow Ukrainians. Briefly about this day. A very positive, truly inspiring conversation with President of France, Macron. I thanked him for the creation of an artillery coalition within our Rammstein defense format and for France's willingness to supply Ukraine with dozens of very effective Caesar artillery systems and ammunition for them this year. We will further bolster our air defense as well. And I thank France for its powerful decisions. Of course, we discussed the situation on the battlefield in Ukraine, the details at the moment and the prospects. Accordingly, we discussed what is important to include in the new defense package that France is currently preparing. And on top of all that, we discussed the work with France on security commitments for Ukraine. We are preparing a bilateral agreement. Emmanuel, Mr. President, thank you once again. We continue our communication with partners on sanctions against Russia, their full effect, and all our diplomatic representatives must step up their efforts to ensure that our partners respond more actively at every instance of Russia's circumvention of sanctions. This is not just an abstract question, it is how a terrorist state produces weapons, including missiles. All Russian missiles have dozens of critical components manufactured abroad, many of them by companies from the free world. The head of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine, Litvinenko, made a report on this. There are clear facts, so blocking the ways Russia circumvents sanctions is literally blocking terror. I am grateful to all partners who understand this and to everyone in the world who helps us in this work. I also held a meeting with the head of our government, Denis Shmyhal. First of all, we discussed the energy sector, the protection and capabilities of our energy system. Consumption is high now, and the threats from the enemy are extremely high. But the professional work of our power engineers and all those responsible for the protection of energy facilities makes it possible to provide the country with light and heat. And this is important. There was also a separate report on the protection of strategic energy facilities. The report was made by Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Kubrakov. The Prime Minister also reported on the situation in our financial system. The situation is stable, and social payments are being distributed in full. Moreover, this is being done without issuance. And by the way, I would like to thank our taxpayers in the country, everyone who keeps jobs in Ukraine, ensures production and works legally and cleanly. Last year, despite the war, we had economic growth of 5% and an increase in tax payments that corresponds to the growth in the economy. This is a clear sign of Ukraine's strength, and the state really appreciates everyone who works, pays taxes, and thus contributes to our common ability to defend the state and independence, despite all the difficulties. A separate report by the Prime Minister was made on the construction of fortifications. The work is ongoing, and I am grateful to everyone involved. The results are exactly what we need. Glory to everyone who defends our country, who fights and works for Ukraine, and who is as active as possible to ensure that Ukrainian companies and Ukrainians get the results they need. Glory to Ukraine.